Welcome to Confirmation. Now, over the next several weeks, we're going to be digging into some topics that might surprise you, might challenge you, because in each and every one of these lessons, we're going to hear that two things that seem to be opposed to each other are true, both at the same time. It's not either this or that, but both this and that together. Both realities just as true as the other, even if they seem contradictory. So I need to ask you a favor. Over the next several weeks, will you please watch both videos each week? I don't want you to get shortchanged and only get part of the picture. Will you watch both videos, especially today? Because we're exploring this idea that you are a sinner and that you are a saint at the same time. If you made it this far into confirmation, it probably doesn't surprise you to hear that you are a sinner. And I don't say that to make you feel bad. It's just a simple statement of fact. I am a sinner. You are a sinner. But do you know why you're a sinner? You might be thinking, Pastor, I know why I'm a sinner. I can name all sorts of things that I've done wrong. Maybe even some things that I've done wrong today. But what if I told you the things you do wrong are not why you're a sinner? A wise pastor was once teaching a confirmation class just like yours and said, you're not a sinner because you sin. You sin because you're a sinner. You see, being a sinner is not a title you earn because of your worst behavior, like winning a game makes you a winner. I did a lot of sinning, so that makes me a sinner. Sinning does not make you a sinner, because sinner isn't a label we can put on or take off based on how good we've been on any given day. Because my identity as a sinner, your identity as a sinner, goes far deeper than that. Even before your first bad decision, before your first ugly word, before your first tragic mistake, you were a sinner. This is what King David writes in Psalm 51. Behold, I was brought forth in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me. Your identity as a sinner has been with you since before you took your first breath. You have as much control over being born a sinner as you did over what color eyes you were born with, or how much hair you had when you were born, or as much control as you had over being born at all. We inherit this sinful brokenness as part of our fallen world. One generation passes it on to another. In that way, being a sinner is a little like having a last name. You're a sinner because you were born into a family of sinners. And because you're a sinner, and that's just who you are, you sin. You can't help it. People love to think that as humans, we all have this freedom, this ability. But have you ever tried to go an entire day without sinning? Tried to wake up and say, I'm not going to sin. No mess ups, no mistakes, no unkind words, no angry thoughts. Nope, not today. If you try it, I'd like to know how far you get. We like to think we can choose good over evil, but you're a sinner. And sinners are going to choose sin. The pastors of the past call this your bound will. Let me illustrate this with this balloon. This balloon is full of air because it's a balloon. You are full of sin because you're a sinner. Now, balloons are pretty fragile. This air inside is always wanting to get out. And you're pretty fragile too. The sin inside you is always wanting to get out. And when the sin gets out, sometimes it makes an unpleasant noise. Sometimes it erupts and it sends us out of control, which can be pretty embarrassing for us. And then, every time we think we've packed it in, we've tied it off and kept any of our sin from getting out, all it takes is one little poke and our sin explodes all over us and everyone around us. So what are you going to do about it? Turns out there's nothing you can do about it. A sinner has nothing to offer but sin. Somebody wants something good, and all you have to offer is a bunch of air, which is what makes Jesus so special. The Catechism's explanation to the second article of the Apostles' Creed talks about sinners and their Savior. This is on page 17. It says, I believe that Jesus Christ has redeemed me, a lost and condemned person, purchased and won me from all sins, from death, and from the power of the devil, not with gold or silver, but with his holy, precious blood, and with his innocent suffering and death. To pay the price for our sin, we could walk up to the counter and say, here's this, a whole bunch of nothing, just a lot of air. And the answer would come back, not good enough. And Jesus comes, and he could offer gold or silver or jewels or crypto, all kinds of riches. He could plunk down everything in the whole world to pay the price for our sin. But that's not good enough. To buy you back, a sinner puffed up with sin, he gives his own life, paying for yours by his own blood, claiming you to be his forever. Now you're a sinner marked with the cross of Jesus, which makes you a saint. More on that in our next video.